Joe Goodhue.
Mr Chair, I move that the question be now put.
Moana Maki.
Don't all sigh. Thank you very much, Mr Chair. I'm very pleased to take a call because I wanted in particular to ask the Minister a question about the grace period clause in this bill, which is clause 24. This seemingly small and innocuous clause is actually incredibly important because at the moment student loan borrowers are advised of their outstanding loan balance, and if they repay that amount within 15 days, then the interest over that period is cancelled. And this piece of legislation extends that out to 30 days. And my question to the Minister is, I'd be interested in knowing how 30 days was come about. I mean, I know it's a nice round figure, it's a month, but I would like to know what actually went into deciding that 30 days was going to fix this problem, because for students, or for ex-students who are overseas, and I've had people contact me who found it extremely difficult sometimes to get the payment in, particularly when they're in a country where they can't just wire money easily. I had a friend who was working in Africa who found it incredibly difficult to work out how they could get that money back within the time frame, and I'm not sure that even 30 days would have been enough for them to be able to qualify for this grace period. And it is an issue that I would really I would like the Minister's response on, because even though it doesn't seem like it's an important issue, sometimes this can be the difference between people deciding to come home and people not. If they just can't do it and it's just too hard, then and they aren't going to qualify to have their interest cancelled, then that may be the thing that says to them, look, I've got all this interest piled up now, it's just made it a whole lot worse, so I'm just going to stay here and never go back to New Zealand, and we never get the loan paid off. More importantly, we don't get the value from the tertiary education that the New Zealand taxpayers paid for, alongside the person as well, of course, when they studied in New Zealand. So I'd appreciate the Minister's comments on that. I also want to briefly comment on the provisions extending this to New Zealand territories, which I think is important. And in the work that I've done with the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association, I met someone from the Cook Islands who in October last year was saying to me how desperate they were for this provision to come in. And I think we've always been good global citizens, and we don't want to pull people away from their homes, particularly when their own economic development is so reliant on their best and brightest being able to return home and not having a financial disincentive to do so. And I want to also commend the contribution from the new member, Gareth Hughes. It's nice to see him getting up on his pin so early in his parliamentary career. And I know that this has become a bit of a time for telling old war stories and one-upmanship. But of course, myself, my colleague Grant Robertson, went through university at the absolute worst time to go through in the 1990s, and he went through in 2000, which I understand was bad enough, and Carmel Sepuloni. And I know how important these incentives are in this legislation for paying it back. And I think you get a lot of people who jump to their feet who've never had a student loan and don't really understand what it's like to have one, what it's like to feel when you graduate that you're going to die with this loan because it was getting bigger despite the fact that you're making repayments. And the push to leave the country is very, very high. In my case, you graduate as a scientist, and scientists don't earn a lot of money in this country. So you don't earn a lot of money, and you've got a loan that's growing day by day, compounding interest daily, and that's why this piece of legislation is so important. It's why it's important for our Pacific colleagues and the people in the Ross dependency, which of course, again, is very useful for scientists. We do some fantastic climate change work down in the Ross dependency. This may mean that ACT will vote against this legislation now, but it's important that they are also included in this, and I'm very pleased to support. But I would appreciate and answer my question on the grace period, just so we can be sure that was arrived at by research and considered thought, rather than just picking it because it was a month. And I also want to just comment on the hardship clause as well, and also commend the Minister on this, because I've had cases come into my office for people who found the current hardship relief clauses, which were unintended consequences of the previous changes to the Act, are very difficult to deal with and inflexible in dealing with their own particular situation of hardship. And This has become a far more difficult issue in the recession, and I'd be interested in the Minister's comments as well around what else will be going on in this area, because a student loan, when you're paying an extra 10% of your income, that's a lot of money. 10% extra.
Mr. Chairman.
Honourable Peter Dunn.
Mr.